I used to believe a home was more than walls and windows. I believed it was the place where a whole lifetime lives, where every corner holds a memory, and every room remembers your footsteps long after your knees stop keeping up. My house, that little yellow house on Sycamore Street, it held nearly every piece of who I ever was. I raised 2 children under that roof, laid my husband to rest after the longest winter of my life, and planted flowers every spring just to remind myself I was still capable of something beautiful. For 60 years, that house was my world. The only constant. The only thing I could count on to stay right where I left it. That's why I never imagined the betrayal would come from someone who grew up inside those same walls. Someone who once clung to my leg when thunderstorms scared her. Someone who learned to walk across that living room carpet, laughing the whole time. My daughter. My firstborn. My own flesh. Her name is Tonya. And before this story twisted itself into something painful, she was the child I trusted most. The one I defended. The one I believed would never put a knife in my back. I should have paid more attention to the way life changes people. I should have paid more attention to how desperation can turn love into something sharp. But I didn't. And that's how she took everything from me without even blinking. It started slow, the kind of slow you don't even notice until you look back and realize it was happening the whole time. I remember the first day Tonya knocked on my door after months of silence. She wore that bright smile she always used when she wanted something, but I didn't see it then. I just felt joy. Genuine, simple joy that my daughter came back to see me. "Hey Mama," she said, stepping into the house like it still belonged to her. "You look good." I laughed a little. "Girl, I look like a tired old woman, and you know it." She kissed my cheek, walked into the kitchen, and helped herself to the fridge just like she did when she was a teenager. Except this time, her movements were quick, distracted. Her eyes scanned the room like she was searching for something. I asked how she was. She said, "Fine." That was it. No stories, no laughs, no long conversations like we used to have. She sat at my kitchen table tapping her nails, sighing too loudly, shifting like she was waiting for a bus that never arrived. I asked if she was hungry. "No," she said. Then a moment later, she asked if I had something sweet. That's when I first felt it, a strange heaviness in the air. The kind of heaviness that follows people carrying secrets. But I didn't want to ruin the visit. A mother always hopes for the best, even when her stomach whispers the worst. Over the next few weeks, Tonya started visiting more often. Sometimes every other day. Sometimes twice in one afternoon. Bringing coffee I didn't ask for, offering to help with things I could still do myself, asking about my medications, asking where I kept things like insurance papers and my mail key. I didn't realize then that she wasn't coming to check on me. She was checking on my life. Checking on what she could take. One afternoon, she showed up with a man I'd never seen before. A tall fellow with a polite smile and a shirt that looked too expensive for someone casually dropping by an old woman's home. "This is my friend Mama," Tonya said, waving him in without asking. "He's helping me with some things." Some things. That's what she called it. The man shook my hand, looked around my dining room like he was studying it, then complimented my hardwood floors. Said something about great bones in this structure, and prime lot value. I didn't know it then, but he wasn't a friend. He was a realtor. And he wasn't there to admire my floors. He was there to measure the price tag of my entire life. Tonya stayed sweet as honey that whole visit. Asking if I needed new glasses. Asking if I still remembered to lock the back door. Asking if I had extra copies of my ID, for safekeeping. I laughed, thinking she was being protective. I didn't know she was gathering tools. Slowly, she began insisting I take it easy. She'd say things like, "Mama, you don't need to handle paperwork anymore," or "Mama, let me take over the bills," or "Mama, just sign this, it's nothing important." And me, foolish and trusting, I just thought she cared. One evening, after she left, I found myself sitting alone in the living room staring at my husband's old recliner. I whispered to him like I used to when I was overwhelmed. Honey, I think something's wrong, I said. But I don't know what to do. The house felt quiet. Too quiet. Then came the day everything shifted. A day I should have seen coming but didn't. I was sitting on the porch enjoying the breeze when a car pulled into my driveway. Two people stepped out, a couple in their 40s, smiling like they were excited about something. I smiled back, assuming they were lost. Can I help you? I asked. The woman walked up with a folder in her hand. We're here for the walkthrough. The what now? The walkthrough, she repeated gently. For the house. We're the buyers. 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 That word echoed in my head so loud my ears rang. I stared at her, confused, certain there was some mistake. Buyers for what house? The man held up the folder. Ma'am, the house. This one. We close in 2 weeks. My whole world went silent. My chest tightened. My vision blurred. My daughter must have made a mistake, I whispered. This house isn't for sale. The couple exchanged a painful look, the kind people give when they know something you don't. Ma'am, the woman said softly, your daughter signed the documents. Everything was approved. She said you were moving into assisted living. I felt the ground slip beneath me. The house. My home. The place where I lived my entire life. She sold it. While I was still alive. The couple apologized and got back in their car, leaving me standing on my porch with the wind blowing through me like I was hollow. I felt something break then. Not a scream, not a sob, but something quieter. Something deeper. The kind of break you can hear only inside your soul. And just when I thought the pain couldn't cut deeper, Tonya's car turned into the driveway. She stepped out, holding coffee, smiling like she hadn't just torn my world apart. Mama, she said casually, we need to talk. And Lord, I wasn't ready for the truth she was about to unload. Tonya walked up the driveway wearing that bright, casual smile she always used when she wanted to soften me before dropping something heavy. She held out the cup of coffee like it was a peace offering, like the steam rising out of it could fog up my memory long enough for me to forget what I'd just heard. Mama, you okay? She asked, tilting her head as if I was the one acting strange. I didn't take the coffee. I didn't take anything from her. I just looked at her, really looked, and I realized something painful in that moment. My child, my own daughter, wasn't looking at me like a mother. She was looking at me like a piece of paperwork. Like a loose end she needed to tie up. Tonya, I said softly, why did those people tell me they're buying my house? Her smile flickered. Just for a second. But it was enough. She shifted the coffee cup from one hand to the other. Mama, don't start. It's not what you think. It's exactly what I think, I whispered. You sold my home. She sighed loudly, exasperated, like I was being unreasonable. Like I was the problem in all this. Mama, listen, she said, setting the coffee on the porch railing. You can't stay here forever. You're getting older, it's too much for you, and honestly, she paused, brushing her hair back, it's time to move on. Move on to where? I asked. She shrugged. A facility. An apartment. Something small. You don't need all this space. Something inside me cracked. I had lived in that house since I was 18 years old. Married in that living room. Held my babies in that hallway. Watched my husband die in the bedroom he built with his own hands. The idea that I didn't need, it felt like someone slicing away the last part of my soul. Tonya, I whispered, why didn't you talk to me? Why didn't you ask? Why didn't you tell me what you were doing? Her expression changed, not softer, not kinder, but sharper. Defensive. Because I knew you'd say no, she snapped. My breath caught. She said it like it was nothing. Like she hadn't just admitted she betrayed me on purpose. She stepped closer, lowering her voice as if she was the one trying to comfort me. Mama, look. You need help. You're forgetful. You're weak. You can't keep up with things like you used to. I stiffened. Tonya, I said calmly, forgetful is what you were when you lost your car keys 3 times last month. Forgetful is not what I am. And weak. The only weakness in this house is the truth you're scared to say. She blinked rapidly, caught off guard by the firmness in my voice. I continued. You sold my home behind my back. Her jaw clenched. Mama, I did what I had to do. Why? She hesitated, looked away, and something in the way she swallowed told me everything before she spoke. I needed the money, she said quietly. What money? She didn't answer. What money, Tonya? Her lips pressed into a tight line. She shook her head like she was brushing away a memory too heavy for her pride. I can't get into that, she muttered. But I handled everything. You'll be fine. They're not kicking you out right away. We have time to move your things. Move my things. I repeated, my voice cracking with disbelief. She nodded, trying so hard to act normal, to pretend her betrayal was just another errand on her list. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. I stared at her until the world around us blurred. That was the moment I finally understood. Tonya wasn't just avoiding responsibility. She wasn't just desperate. She wasn't just careless. She had planned this. Mama, please, she said softly, trying to make her voice sweet again. I'm trying to help you. Help me. I whispered. You didn't help me. You helped yourself. Her expression tightened, embarrassment, anger, guilt, all tangled. Then she snapped. You don't get it, she shouted suddenly. Everything is falling apart for me. My bills are late, the bank is calling, and I'm drowning, Mama. I needed something. I needed a way out. And you used me, I said. She looked away. Didn't deny it. Didn't apologize. Silence swallowed the porch until a breeze carried dead leaves across the steps. Finally she whispered, I didn't think you'd understand. My eyes stung. Because you never gave me the chance. She grabbed her bag and backed toward her car. I'll come back tomorrow, she said. We'll start packing. Packing. The word felt like a punch straight to the chest. I stood in the doorway watching her leave, feeling older than I ever had in my life. Not because of age. Because of grief. Because of betrayal. That night, I couldn't sleep. I walked through every room of my home, touching the photos on the walls, running my fingers across the kitchen counter where I taught Tonya to cook, sitting in the living room where we opened Christmas gifts, standing in the yard where she learned to ride a bike. Every memory felt stolen now, tainted, bruised. In the morning, a knock at the door pulled me out of a restless half-sleep. I opened it expecting Tonya. It wasn't Tonya. It was a young woman holding a clipboard. Mrs. Carter? She asked gently. My name is Melissa. I'm from the County Senior Services Division. We need to talk about your relocation. Relocation. I repeated weakly. Yes, she said softly. Your daughter submitted paperwork stating you can no longer safely live alone. The facility placement is already in progress. I felt the whole room sway. My daughter did what? Melissa gave me a sympathetic look, the kind people give when they realize they're the ones delivering someone's heartbreak. She signed guardianship paperwork, she said quietly. Temporarily. And she filed you as unable to manage your own home. My stomach dropped. Guardianship. Relocation. Unable to manage. Tonya didn't just sell my house. She took my independence. My rights. My voice. In one single sweep. Right then and there, I felt something inside me ignite. Not anger, not hatred, but a deep, quiet resolve I hadn't felt in years. I looked at the young woman, tears burning my eyes, and said the calmest words I'd said in months. I don't care what she signed. I'm still here. And I'm not going anywhere without a fight. But Tonya had no idea yet. Because the fight inside me, it was just beginning. The young woman, Melissa, stood in my doorway with that clipboard pressed to her chest like it was a shield against the truth she had to deliver. She looked too soft for the job she'd been assigned, too kind to be the bearer of bad news. Her eyes kept flicking over my shoulder, taking in the home around me, the family photos, the quilt on the couch, the old lamp with the crooked shade that had sat in that same corner since 1983. Everything about my home said lived in. Everything about her presence said ending. "Mama," I whispered to myself, so quietly no one heard it but me. "How did we get here?" Melissa exhaled slowly, her voice gentle but steady. "Mrs. Carter, I know this is difficult, but according to the documents your daughter filed, you're set to transition into a senior facility by the end of the month." "Facility," I repeated, feeling the word catch in my throat like a splinter. "Yes," she said softly. "It'll be a safe place. You'll have care, supervision." "I don't need supervision," I snapped, not out of anger at her, but at the situation. At Tonya. At everything. Melissa nodded respectfully. "I hear you. I do. But the county has to follow the paperwork." I stared at her. "Sweetheart, do I look like somebody who can't live on their own?" She hesitated. "No," she admitted. "You seem perfectly capable to me. But your daughter claimed you have memory issues, mobility concerns, and episodes of confusion." My jaw trembled. Confusion. Mobility issues. Memory problems. Those were lies. Blatant lies. Words Tonya wrote down so easily it made my stomach twist. Melissa stepped closer and lowered her voice. "Mrs. Carter, if these statements are false, we can challenge them. But it won't be easy." A flicker of hope sparked in me. Small, fragile, but real. "What do I need to do?" I asked. "For now," she said, "let me file a welfare report. An independent evaluation. If you pass, we can stop the relocation. But," she looked around again, "we need to move quickly." I nodded, gripping the edge of the doorframe for balance. Not because I needed it physically, but because my whole world felt like it was shifting under me. "Okay," I whispered. "Please help me." "I will," she promised. "I'll do everything I can." And then she left. But I knew Tonya would be back. And I needed time before she discovered I'd fought back. I closed the door and leaned against it, letting out a long, shaky breath. The house was too quiet. Too still. Like it was holding itself together for my sake. I walked through the living room, trailing my fingers across the fireplace mantel. My wedding photo. My children's school pictures. My husband's old fishing trophy. All the pieces of my life that didn't belong to Tonya, not truly, because she didn't value them. She didn't even see them anymore. When the sun dipped behind the trees, I turned on the porch light and sat in my husband's recliner, holding the knitted blanket he made me promise never to throw out. I whispered to the empty room, "I'm fighting, baby. I won't let her take everything." The next morning came too fast. A hard knock rattled the door. Not gentle, not hesitant, demanding. "Tonya," I said under my breath, bracing myself. And I was right. She burst through the door without waiting for me to open it fully, her face twisted in irritation like I was the one causing problems. "Mama, what did you tell the county lady?" she snapped, tossing her purse on the couch. I steadied my voice. "I told her the truth." She rolled her eyes. "Why would you do that? You're making this harder." "Harder for who?" I asked calmly. "You." "Mama, stop," she groaned, hands on her hips. "The sale's already gone through. The buyers are expecting to move in soon. You need to cooperate." "I didn't agree to this," I said. Tonya crossed her arms. "You didn't have to. I handled it." And there it was, the truth behind why she did everything behind closed doors. In her eyes, I wasn't a mother anymore. I was an obstacle. "Tonya," I said softly, "you lied. You said I was confused. You told them I couldn't take care of myself." She looked away. "It's not lying if it's for your own good." For my good. My voice cracked. Or yours? She didn't answer. Of course she didn't. Then, with a sigh, she sat down on the couch like this was all just a stressful chore. Mama, you don't understand, she said. I'm drowning. Bills, debt, people calling me non-stop. I needed that money. You weren't using it. My heart twisted. You mean the home your father and I built together? The home I paid off while you were still in diapers? The home where every birthday you ever had was celebrated? She flinched, but only slightly. I needed it, she repeated. And no one else was going to help me. I stared at her, my own daughter, and for the first time, I didn't recognize the woman sitting in my living room. You hurt me, I whispered. You took something from me that wasn't yours. Her eyes hardened. You'll get over it. Those 4 words pierced deeper than any knife. I felt something inside me shift. Something steady, cold, determined. No, I said quietly. You don't get to decide that. She stood abruptly. Well, whether you like it or not, you have to move. The truck is scheduled next week. I'll help you pack so you don't. You won't pack a thing in this house, I said sharply. Tonya froze. The air changed. Mama, she said slowly, warning in her voice. Don't make this difficult. I'm not making it difficult, I replied. I'm making it right. She frowned. What's that supposed to mean? It means I'm not going anywhere until the truth comes out. I stepped closer, voice steady. The sale. The signatures. The lies you told the county. You may think you can hide all that, but you can't. Her eyes widened just enough for me to see fear flicker there. The fear of someone who realizes their plan isn't as airtight as they thought. She grabbed her purse and backed toward the door. Mama, don't do this, she whispered. It's already done, I said. You started something you weren't ready to finish. She left without another word. The moment the door closed, I felt my legs weaken. I slid into a chair, letting the weight of everything crash into me. An hour later, my phone rang. It was Melissa. Mrs. Carter, she said, her voice more urgent this time. I reviewed your case. Something isn't adding up. A lot of this paperwork looks off. My heart pounded. Off how? I asked. And then she said the sentence that changed the entire course of my fight. Mrs. Carter, I believe your daughter forged your signature. The air left my lungs. Forged. My signature. My hands trembled, but my voice stayed firm. What happens now? I asked. We investigate, she said. We pull the records. We gather evidence. And if it's proven, your daughter could lose all guardianship privileges and face legal consequences. For a moment, I closed my eyes, letting the words wash over me. Not because I wanted her punished, but because I wanted my life back. We will get to the bottom of this, Melissa promised. I whispered, thank you. After I hung up, I sat alone at my kitchen table, sunlight spilling across the wood, realizing the truth. Tonya thought she could take everything from me because she believed I had no fight left. But she was wrong. Because between every bruise she left on my heart, there was still a fire burning. And I wasn't done yet. Not by a long shot. For the next few days, the house felt different. Not empty, just tense, like the walls themselves were holding their breath, waiting for whatever storm was coming next. I moved through the rooms slowly, touching the edges of furniture, smoothing my fingers across photographs, whispering little prayers into the quiet. A mother prays for her child even when that child has become the very thing breaking her heart. Every night, the phone sat on the counter like a ticking clock. I waited for Melissa's updates the way some people wait for surgery results. Hopeful, scared, and exhausted. On the 4th morning, she called. Mrs. Carter, can you come down to the county office this afternoon? There's something I need to show you. Her voice was calm, but something underneath it, something tight, told me whatever she found wasn't small. I agreed, and she gave me the address. I wore my nicest sweater, not because I needed to impress anyone, but because I wanted to remind myself who I was. A woman with dignity. A woman who deserved better than what her own daughter had done. Melissa met me in the lobby, holding a thin folder in her hands, her expression serious. "Mrs. Carter, follow me." She led me to a small office with a desk, 2 chairs, and a faint smell of old paper. When we sat, she placed the folder in front of me. "This," she said quietly, "is the file your daughter submitted." She opened it. The first page hit me like a blow. A guardianship application, with Tonya listed as my temporary legal decision-maker. At the bottom was my name. My signature. Except, it wasn't mine. My chest tightened. "Mrs. Carter," Melissa said gently, "I spoke with the notary listed on this form. He says he never met you. Never saw you sign anything. Your daughter submitted this without the required verification." My stomach twisted. The next page was worse. A property transfer authorization, stating I agreed to voluntarily vacate the premises for safety reasons. My signature again. Forged again. "She signed everything," I whispered. "She signed everything as me." Melissa nodded. Yes. The final document was the sale agreement. Clear as day, my daughter had signed both buyer and seller confirmations. "Is this legal?" I asked, voice trembling. "No," Melissa said firmly. "It isn't." I stared at the papers, the lines of ink that weren't mine, the lies written in my name. It felt like mourning, except the person I was grieving wasn't dead. She was alive, breathing, somewhere out there moving through the world like she hadn't already destroyed mine. "Mrs. Carter," Melissa continued, "we can contest all of this, but it will require an official case investigation. I contacted our legal team, and they're already reviewing it." I nodded, though my hands trembled. Melissa reached across the table and touched my arm gently. "We believe you," she said, "and we're not going to let this stand." For the first time in days, I felt something warm inside me, something like hope. That evening, Tonya sent a text. "We need to talk. I'll be there tomorrow morning." Not a "Mom, are you okay?" Not a "Can we work things out?" Just a demand disguised as communication. I didn't respond. I didn't sleep much either. I watched the sunrise from my kitchen window, the same way I used to when my kids were running late for school. The birds chirped outside like the world didn't know it was falling apart. At 9:12 a.m., I heard her car pull into the driveway. A part of me braced itself, the part that had been wounded so many times it learned to flinch before the pain arrived. Her knock was sharp. I opened the door. Tonya barged in without waiting for me to say a word. "Mama, you need to stop whatever you're doing with that county girl. You're making things worse." "Worse for who?" I asked. "For everyone," she snapped. She paced the living room, her hands flying through the air like she was the one wronged. "Mama, I told you, I needed help. I needed money. This was the only way." "You didn't even ask me," I said softly. She stopped pacing. But she didn't look at me. "If I asked," she said bitterly, "you would have said no." "Then that should have told you something," I replied. Silence fell between us, heavy and thick. I walked to the coffee table, picked up the folder Melissa gave me, and set it down between us. "You forged my signature." Tonya froze. "No, I didn't," she lied too quickly. I flipped open the folder. The notary said he never met me. The county records show I never filed anything. "Tonya, everything here is a lie." Her face went pale. "You committed fraud," I said softly. "And you did it using my name." "Mama, please," she whispered, her voice trembling for the first time. "You don't understand." "Then help me understand." She sank into the couch, buried her head in her hands, and breathed shakily. "I had no choice," she said weakly. "The debt is bigger than you think." They're going to come after me. I needed money fast. I didn't think it would blow up like this. My heart twisted. You could have come to me. And say what? She snapped. Say, Mama, I ruined my life again? Say, Mama, I need you to bail me out? You'd judge me. I shook my head. I'd help you. There's a difference. She stared at me, and I could see something in her eyes. Something fragile, like a truth she'd been running from. Then she whispered, I didn't think you had anything left to give. Those words hit me harder than every lie she'd told. My daughter didn't see me as a mother anymore. Just an empty well. Something dry. Something useless. Tonya, I said slowly, you didn't just take my home. You took my trust. Her face crumpled, not from guilt, but from fear. What happens now? She whispered. Before I could answer, the doorbell rang. Tonya stiffened. I walked to the door and opened it. Melissa stood there with a county investigator and a legal representative. Their expressions were serious, the kind that meant this wasn't just an informal check-in. Mrs. Carter, the investigator said, we're here to discuss the fraudulent documentation under your name. Tonya's voice cracked behind me. Mama, no, please. I stepped aside. Come in, I said. Tonya grabbed my arm. Please, don't do this, she whispered. I'm your daughter. I gently pulled my arm away. So was I whispered. And you didn't protect me. Tonya fell silent. The officials entered the room. They sat across from her, questioned her, watched her crumble. Every lie she tried to offer cracked under its own weight. At one point, Tonya looked at me with tears streaming down her face. The same face that once cried because she broke her toy, or scraped her knee, or lost her first love. Mama, I'm sorry, she choked out. And I believed she meant it. But sometimes apologies arrive after too much damage has been done. When the officials finished, Melissa walked me to the kitchen while Tonya stayed in the living room being processed. Mrs. Carter, Melissa said gently, the sale is suspended. The guardianship is revoked. You're safe now. My knees nearly gave out. Safe. I was safe. But my heart wasn't. Not yet. Not while the child I raised was falling apart in the next room. Not because of injustice, but because of the truth she created herself. The investigator stepped into the kitchen and spoke softly. We'll finalize everything over the next week. For now, Mrs. Carter, you keep your home. I closed my eyes, tears streaming down my cheeks. I kept my home. But at what cost? Tonya left hours later. Lost, ashamed, broken in ways I couldn't fix. Not this time. She didn't say goodbye. She didn't look back. She simply walked to her car, got in, and drove away. I watched her go with a hollow feeling in my chest, like I'd just survived a storm, but the wreckage was still scattered everywhere. And deep down, I knew this wasn't over. Not yet. Because the truth had a way of coming back around. And Tonya. She hadn't told me everything. Not even close. The house was quiet after Tonya left. Too quiet, the kind of quiet that doesn't bring peace, only questions. I stood at the living room window long after her car disappeared down the street, my hand resting against the glass like somehow the cold would steady me. I had fought for my home and won. But my daughter. The child I carried for 9 months, the child I rocked to sleep, the child whose whole world once fit in the palm of my hand. She was on a road I didn't understand anymore. I went back inside and sat on the edge of the couch. My whole body felt heavy. Not from age. From heartbreak. There is no weight heavier than the silence between a mother and her child. Later that evening, I found myself in the kitchen, trying to make tea just to give my hands something to do. The kettle hissed softly, and I poured the hot water into my cup, watching the steam rise like a prayer that didn't know where to go. I'd barely taken one sip when my phone buzzed. It wasn't a number I recognized. I answered anyway. Hello. A hesitant voice came through the line. Young. Male. nervous. Mrs. Carter? Ma'am. You don't know me, but I think we need to talk about Tonya. My chest tightened instantly. Who is this? I asked, gripping the phone a little too hard. My name's Daryl, he said quietly. I used to be with your daughter. My breath caught. With Tonya, there were always people in and out of her life. Friends, boyfriends, co-workers, folks who wanted something from her or folks she wanted something from. But there was something different in this man's tone. Something uncertain. Something apologetic. I'm sorry to call out of nowhere, he continued. But I heard what happened. With the house. And I think I owe you the truth. I sat down slowly. What truth? On the other end of the line, Daryl exhaled shakily, like he'd been carrying this story for too long. Tonya didn't just sell the house to get out of debt, he said. She sold it because she's in trouble. Real trouble. A cold shiver ran through me. What kind of trouble? I whispered. There was a long pause, and when he spoke again, his voice was soft but firm. She owes money to some people. Dangerous people. I closed my eyes. My heart sank like a stone in water. How much? I asked. More than she can pay back. She's been trying to outrun it for months. The house. It was her last way out. I swallowed hard. Why didn't she come to me? Why didn't she say anything? He hesitated before answering. Because she didn't want you to see her like this. She didn't want you to know how bad she messed up. A mix of pain and anger tightened my throat. She lied. She stole. She forged my name. Daryl. She almost took everything from me. I know, he said softly. I'm not defending her. But I think she believed losing your trust was better than dragging you into the danger she's in. Danger. That word echoed inside me like a bell. She made this mess herself, I said quietly. She did this. Yes, Daryl replied. But she's scared, Mrs. Carter. Really scared. And now that folks know the sale didn't go through, they're going to come after her harder. My heart stuttered. What are you saying? I'm saying Tonya might not be safe right now. My fingers tightened around the phone. Where is she? I don't know, he said. She cut off a lot of people. Changed her number. I only heard from her once last week. She sounded lost. I pressed a hand to my forehead, feeling dizzy. Mrs. Carter, he continued, voice trembling. I know she hurt you. I know what she did was wrong. But I'm telling you because I think she's running for her life. A long silence stretched between us. I didn't know what to say, what to feel. Anger and fear and heartbreak all blended into something so heavy it hurt to breathe. Thank you for telling me, I finally whispered. Please be careful, he said quietly. If the people after her think she might run to you, they might come looking. My breath froze. Why would they come here? Because they think family means something, he said. Even when it's broken. The line went dead. I sat there for what felt like hours, staring at the cup of tea I'd forgotten to drink, listening to the refrigerator hum, feeling the weight of a truth I wasn't prepared for. Tonya didn't just betray me. She didn't just lie or steal or forge my name. She was drowning in something dangerous, something that reached far beyond overdue bills and bad decisions. Night fell, and I didn't turn on any lights. I sat in the darkness, my heart beating too loud in my own chest. Around 10 p.m., I heard a noise outside. A car. Slow. Stopping near my house. My breath hitched. The engine idled for a moment, then drove away. But the unease stayed with me. The next morning, Melissa called again. Mrs. Carter, I have the finalized results. The case is officially in your favor. I should have been relieved. But all I could think about was Tonya. Mrs. Carter? Melissa asked, sensing my quiet. Are you all right? I hesitated. Melissa, My daughter may be in danger. I told her about the call, about the debts, about the people who might be looking for Tonya, and maybe even for me. Melissa listened carefully, her voice tightening with concern. You should come to the county office tomorrow, she said. We might need to notify the police. I nodded, though fear gripped me. That night, I slept with the hall light on, something I hadn't done since Tonya was a child afraid of shadows. But the fear wasn't for me. It was for her. Even after everything she did, everything she took, my heart still beat for her safety. The next morning, I decided to call her. Her phone went straight to voicemail. I tried again. Straight to voicemail. I sat at the kitchen table, hands shaking, staring at the silent phone. Then suddenly, a loud knock at the door made me jump. 3 sharp bangs. Not friendly. Not familiar. I stood slowly, fear prickling the back of my neck. Another bang. I took a deep breath, walked to the door, and opened it just an inch. A man stood on my porch. Tall. Broad. Cold eyes. He stared at me like he was measuring something. Not my face, but my usefulness. Where's Tonya? He asked. My stomach dropped. I gripped the door, my heart pounding in my ears. I don't know, I said truthfully. His jaw tightened. She owes money. She's out of time. I don't know where she is, I repeated, my voice shaking despite my attempt to steady it. He leaned closer, his shadow casting over the doorway. If she contacts you, he said quietly, you tell her I'm done waiting. Before I could respond, he turned and walked to his car. He didn't look back. The engine revved, and the car disappeared down the street. My hands trembled so violently I had to hold the doorframe just to stay upright. This wasn't just debt. This wasn't just trouble. This was danger. Real danger. And my daughter, my broken, desperate, reckless daughter, was tangled in something that could swallow her whole. I closed the door and locked it. Then whispered into the empty house, God, please don't let me lose my child. But deep down I knew. The storm was coming. And this time, it wasn't coming for my house. It was coming for Tonya. And for me. For the first time in my life, my own home didn't feel safe. Every window felt too open. Every creak in the floorboards felt like a warning. Every passing car made my heart jump into my throat. I kept the lights low and the curtains closed, pacing the living room with my phone in hand. I tried calling Tonya again. And again. And again. Always the same result. Straight to voicemail, like she'd disappeared from the world. My daughter. My baby girl. The same child who used to crawl into my bed during thunderstorms, trembling until I held her. The same girl who used to run across this yard with pigtails bouncing, laughing so loud the birds would scatter from the trees. And now she was somewhere out there. Alone, hunted, afraid. The weight of it sat so deep in my chest I could hardly breathe. I barely slept that night. When dawn finally crept across the sky, I left for the county office like Melissa asked. My hands trembled on the steering wheel the entire drive, not because of age, not because of nerves, but because I didn't know what news I might hear. Melissa met me at the entrance with a worried look. Mrs. Carter, she said gently, you look exhausted. I'm fine, I said, though the lie tasted bitter. Did you hear anything? About my daughter. We reached out to law enforcement, she said quietly. They're aware of the situation. They'll patrol your neighborhood for the next few days. I nodded, grateful but still aching. But there is something else, Melissa added. She led me to a small private room. On the table lay another folder, thicker than the last. My heart sank at the sight of it. What's this? I asked. More of Tonya's paperwork, she said. We dug deeper. And then she opened the folder. Inside was a list of transactions, loans, withdrawals, credit lines, overdue notices, bounced payments, a long list of years of desperation. It was worse than I imagined. Tonya's been in trouble for a long time, Melissa said softly. She was hiding more than just debt. I swallowed hard. What do you mean? Melissa hesitated. She may be involved with people making illegal loans, she said. People who don't go through banks. My hand flew to my chest. Illegal loans. Dangerous people. The kind who don't forget. The kind who don't forgive. My vision blurred with tears. My baby. Why didn't she just come to me? Melissa put a hand on my shoulder. Sometimes, pride is stronger than common sense. I wiped my eyes, trembling. The room felt too small, too tight, too full of truths I didn't want. Then Melissa's phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen. Her eyes widened. Mrs. Carter, it's the police. They found your daughter. My heart stopped. Is she? She's alive, Melissa said quickly. She's at the hospital. The breath I'd been holding escaped in a shaky rush. My knees nearly gave out, and Melissa helped me sit. What happened? I whispered. She was found unconscious behind a gas station 2 towns over. She wasn't harmed badly, dehydrated, exhausted, some bruises, but she wasn't attacked. She collapsed. I closed my eyes, tears sliding down my cheeks. Can I see her? I asked. Yes, Melissa said. They're asking for a family member. I nodded. I didn't even hesitate. Because no matter what she did, she was still my child. The hospital room was dim, the blinds half closed to soften the afternoon sun. Machines beeped steadily. Tonya lay on the bed, looking small in a way I'd never seen. Fragile, pale, lost. For a moment, I just stood in the doorway, staring at her. The girl I raised. The woman she became. And the pain between us that nearly tore my heart clean in two. She opened her eyes slowly. Mama, she whispered, her voice cracking. I rushed to her side and took her hand. I'm here, baby. Her chin quivered. Tears filled her eyes. Mama. I'm so sorry, she whispered, her voice breaking all the way through. I didn't want you to get hurt. I didn't want anyone coming for you. Oh, sweetheart, I said softly, brushing her hair back. You hurt me more by shutting me out. She cried harder then. Real tears, heavy and raw. Not excuses. Not manipulation. Just pain. I messed everything up, she sobbed. I thought if I sold the house, if I paid them back, they'd leave me alone. I didn't want to bring that mess to your doorstep. You brought it anyway, I said gently. She nodded, ashamed. I know, she whispered. I didn't think it would go this far. I squeezed her hand. Why didn't you come to me? Because I was embarrassed, she whispered. You always took care of everyone. Dad. Me. The whole house. And I didn't want you to see me like this. Weak. Stupid. You're not stupid, I said softly. You're scared. And you made the wrong choices. But you're still my daughter. Her eyes widened with disbelief, like she didn't think she deserved those words. Mama, after everything I did? After almost taking your home? After lying? That home has walls, I said. But you have a soul. And I'll choose my child's soul every time. She broke completely then, sobbing into my hand. I'll turn myself around, she whispered. I'll work with the police. I'll get a job. I'll fix my life. I'll never do something like that again. Mama, I promise. I nodded, though my heart knew promises alone weren't enough. But it was a start. A small one. A fragile one. But a start. Later that week, Tonya met with the police. She gave statements. She talked about the people she owed, the loans she took, the pressure she was under. It wasn't easy. It wasn't fast. But it was honest. For once, she wasn't running. And as the investigation unfolded, something unexpected happened. The danger that had been looming over her began to fade. With police involvement, those men backed off. Distance grew. Protection was put in place. A few weeks later, Tonya came to my house. Not to take. Not to lie. Not to force me out. But to apologize. Really apologize. She stood in the doorway, hands trembling, eyes red. "Mama," she whispered, "I'm going to therapy. I'm working. I'm paying off everything the right way. And I want to earn back your trust. I know it won't be quick." I studied her carefully. She wasn't perfect. She wasn't healed. But she was trying. And sometimes, trying is the bravest first step. "Come in," I said softly. She let out a breath of relief and stepped inside the home she nearly took from me. The home she grew up in, the home she betrayed, the home she was finally beginning to respect again. We sat at the kitchen table, and for the first time in years, we talked. Really talked. Not about blame. Not about money. Not about shame. But about healing. About forgiveness. About rebuilding something that nearly broke beyond repair. It wasn't a magical fix. It wasn't instant peace. It wasn't perfect. But it was real. And that was enough. Months passed. The sun warmed the porch again. The house felt safe again. My heart felt lighter again. And one afternoon, Tonya came over with groceries. Real groceries she bought with her own hard-earned money, and she smiled shyly as she unpacked them. "I'm getting better, Mama," she whispered. "I know you are," I said. She looked down at her hands. "And thank you for not giving up on me." I touched her cheek gently. "A mother's love," I whispered, "is stronger than a signature. Stronger than a lie. Stronger than fear." She closed her eyes, a tear slipping free. "I don't deserve you," she whispered. I shook my head. "You don't have to deserve me," I said softly. "You're my daughter." In that moment, sitting in the home I nearly lost, holding the child I almost lost, I realized something important. The house could have vanished. The money, the papers, the documents, all of it. But the love between a mother and her child, even bruised, even battered, had survived. And sometimes survival is its own miracle. I took her hand. "Let's start over," I said gently. And she nodded. Not as a thief. Not as a liar. Not as a desperate woman running from her past. But as my daughter. And together, we stepped into a new chapter. One built not on signatures or secrets, but on truth. And a love that refused to give up.